football clubs.
Chelsea have always played at Stamford Bridge. They're best known for their recent successes, but does their entire history make them a big football club?
Subscribe now to see how they compare with other big football clubs.
Chelsea's 25 major titles puts them in 5th place. Their fan base over the entire period of league football makes them the 8th most supported club in England over time. A graph representing their success and support puts them towards the bigger clubs in the current Premier League.
Chelsea won absolutely everything.
Chelsea have won 6 English League titles, 8 FA Cups and 5 League Cups, putting them in the top 10 for each competition. They've also won the European Cup, Europa League and the European Cup Winners' Cup, all twice. This makes them one of 5 clubs to have won all 3 European titles. They've also won the FIFA Club World Cup.
Chelsea fans are loyal.
After joining the First Division, Chelsea enjoyed a large fan base as they quickly became the best supported club in the league, with the highest average attendances for many of the seasons before the war. This without even mounting any kind of challenge to the league. Support peaked straight after the war, when Chelsea at last did challenge for the title, and they continued to have the best league attendances in the early to mid-20s. Although some of the other clubs had caught up with them, attendances were comfortably above the average for the entirety of the interwar period, even when in the second half of the 20s they found themselves in the second division. Curiously, this did not change much after their return to Division 1, but their fixture against Arsenal in 1935 of 82,000 is one of the highest attendances in the history of English football. Crowds continued at a healthy rate after the war, and Chelsea's championship-winning season was their best in terms of support in their entire history, topping the league record for the final time. Shortly after this, however, attendances were inconsistent, and they fell to just above the top-flight average on a few occasions in the 50s and 60s. Strong finishes at the end of the 60s saw an improvement in turnouts, but years without glory were to come. It was Chelsea's descent from the mid-70s that led to troublingly low support at Stamford Bridge, compared with the previous years, but in reality this was never too far from the average. Difficult seasons in the second division marked the lowest points in Chelsea's history. This even went below 13,000 when threatened with relegation to the third division, and from then it took a while for the fan base to recover. Back in the top flight in the 90s, Chelsea were now chasing the top flight average, and it was slightly bettered at the end of the 90s when things were looking up for the club. With sustained success during the Abramovich era, Chelsea have mostly had better than average attendances, but other clubs with growing stadiums have caught up, and their attendances are now at the top flight average. There have been talks about building a 60,000-seater stadium, but with an uncertain future, filling the ground consistently may not be guaranteed.
We've won the biggest games at home and abroad.
One of the classic Chelsea matches was against Leeds United. Both clubs were famed for an aggressive approach even for the time, and in a heated affair Chelsea came through to win their first FA Cup. After nearly 10 years of building a squad to win the European Cup, Chelsea finally won the title when least expected, with caretaker manager Roberto Di Matteo and at the home of favourites, Bayern.
Nobody could stop our boys.
Chelsea have a host of expensive players from their recent years, but how do they compare to players signed before the Abramovich era? 2 players appear in both sides, John Terry, who came through the youth ranks, and Lampard, who is club's top scorer even as a midfielder. This lineup may give us a more realistic representation of players at Stamford Bridge over time, but only real Chelsea fans can comment on this.
We've always been around.
After election into the second division, Chelsea were soon promoted to the first, and, as can be expected, for one of the newer clubs there, it took a while for them to mount a serious challenge to the title. Indeed, they spent a few of those years back in the second division, but were soon back in the first and were able to attain a good finish in 1914. They came closest to the top in 1920, but they would not do better than third place for the next 35 years. They followed this with mostly mid-table finishes, and in the second half of the 1920s they found themselves in the second division. They were constantly pushing for promotion and recovered to the first division by 1930. They then had mostly low to mid-table finishes throughout the 30s. After the Second World War, life back in the First Division was not easy, but Ted Drake made improvements culminating in the surprise First League title in 1955. Without the Football League's approval, Chelsea did not appear in the inaugural European Cup. They soon faded back to mid and lower table finishes and even relegation at the start of the 60s. But they recovered well, experiencing their second wave of success with strong league finishes, both domestic cups, and the European Cup Winners' Cup in 1971. But this performance would not be matched for the next 30 years, as financial issues led to 30 years of struggle. They came close to relegation to the Third Division in 1983, but time in the Second Division did result in 2 Second Division titles, and have been in the First Division since 1989. In the 90s, Chelsea had established themselves as a stable Premier League club, and it was at the end of that decade that they experienced their third wave of success. An increasingly international-looking side ended their long wait for silverware with domestic cups, then the European Cup Winners' Cup again. They were unable to win the league title, but all this changed when the Roman Abramovich took over. Squads were then built to win a total of 17 major titles in a 16-year period, including 2 European Cups. The departure of Abramovich met with a difficult period, and it remains to be seen if a big spending but no longer financially dominant Chelsea will be able to keep winning titles. Chelsea's total trophy haul rivals most English clubs, but it would take a number of years of sustained success for them to compete with the very biggest clubs in England. Chelsea have performed well in Europe, winning the Cup Winners' Cup after winning each of their first 2 FA Cups. They've taken advantage of their time at the top by winning 2 European Cups. Chelsea have had strong support since the beginning, but rising expectations after success has been a repeated issue for fans who find it hard to deal with the eventual lows that are part of football. Over most of their history, Chelsea did not compete in the biggest matches, so winning their first FA Cup against an impressive Leeds was a landmark victory. Their performances in the European Cup in the last few years have overtaken their previous performances by some margin. Teams from the last 20 years will be remembered for reaching heights never before met at Chelsea, and these players are some of the best in English football. But there are some from the past who also have great reputations. Chelsea have usually been in the top flight and have never been below the Second Division. Winning a vast majority of their trophies in a very short period makes it hard to assess their real size. Investment was required for Chelsea to compete with the biggest clubs in England, but how Chelsea deal with an uncertain future will tell us if they are truly one of England's
big football clubs.
With all their success in recent years and much less success in earlier years, where did Chelsea stand in comparison to the big clubs in London?
Please comment below. Like and subscribe to Big Football Clubs to watch videos as they're released each week.